With that, we have our final regular witness, Francisco Bencosme, the Asia-Pacific Advocacy Manager for Amnesty International. He will look at all of the human rights issues across South Asia in the 5 minutes allotted. And before joining Amnesty, he was a professional staff member in the second most prestigious House of the United States Congress. You're recognized.
Chairman Sherman and distinguished members of the House, thank you for holding this timely hearing on this crucial subject and for that introduction. Amnesty International is a global human rights organization with human rights activists all around the world, where we look to shine a light on abuses in some of the darkest places. Prior to this hearing, I submitted a written statement which looks comprehensively at human rights violations being conducted in 5 countries, including India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Nepal. I'd also like to insert into the congressional record a statement by Human Rights Watch. For the oral statement, I'd like to focus on 2 trends we're seeing in the region: a growing crackdown on freedom of expression and a mounting wave of anti-Muslim sentiment that is plaguing the region. Almost 1 year ago today, the government of India raided the office of Amnesty India for 10 hours. They ordered some of our staff to not leave, lock the gates, and not use their mobile phones. Since the raids, our funds have been frozen, forcing Amnesty India to grind its work to a halt and to downsize its staff. This is also not unique to Amnesty. Weeks before, it was Greenpeace and The Quint, a news website. In July of this year, authorities filed a criminal case against Lawyers Collective, a group that provides legal aid, advocates for the rights of marginalized groups, and campaigns to end discrimination against LGBTQ people. It's also not unique to India as well, where we've seen Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Nepal all create draft NGO legislation to crack down on civil society. We're one of the largest human rights organizations in the country of India, doing crucial work such as research on Kashmir, where we've been documenting abuses for over a decade. And according to the reporters, the Indian government is actually planning further action against both Amnesty and Greenpeace that could happen any day now, and imminent arrests are expected of our top staff. As the world's largest democracy, and as a crucial strategic partner to the United States, what does this say about India when they crack down on human rights organizations and civil society organizations? I'm here today representing Amnesty International to ask if Congress and this administration could please speak up and loudly on behalf of human rights activists and civil society organizations who are doing on-the-ground research to uncover these human rights abuses. On Kashmir, last week, we came out with one of the most comprehensive updates on the human rights situation in Kashmir, where we documented a clear pattern of arbitrary detention on politicians and activists, cases of security forces abuses, such as torture and inhumane treatment, and a communication clampdown, which undermined the ability for individuals to reach health services in the region. Second, I would like to highlight the increasing growing trend of anti-Muslim xenophobic backlash in the region. In Bangladesh, the fallout of a Rohingya repatriation deal in August created a flurry of xenophobic and hate messages spreading against the Rohingya refugees on social media. This backlash has the possibility of turning the host community against them, which would endanger the Rohingya's future in Bangladesh and a return to Myanmar. Earlier this year, a large number of Rohingya refugees organized a rally of appreciation for Bangladesh and appeals to Myanmar to speak to them about safe returns. But this had amounted to further restrictions on their freedom of peaceful assembly, expression, and movement. The Bangladesh authorities have shut down mobile phone networks inside the refugee camps and made announcements about erecting barbed wire fences around the camps. The influx of more than 700,000 Rohingya refugees since August 2017 has resulted in a huge population of affected communities. About 500,000 Rohingya are school-aged children who have no access to accredited education, and are at risk of becoming a lost generation and are vulnerable to forced recruitment into armed groups, child labor, sexual exploitation, and child marriage. In Assam, more than 1.9 million people have been left out from the final list of the National Register of Citizens. Many of them have been Muslims. Amnesty International expresses deep concerns about the functioning of the 100 or more Foreigners Tribunal, which will decide whether these excluded from the NRC list are Indian citizens or not. Amnesty International has strongly urged the Assam government to ensure that the Foreigners Tribunal function with utmost transparency and are in line with fair trial standards guaranteed under international law. In a recent television interview, a senior Indian official said that there will be a nationwide National Register of Citizens before 2024. The extension of NRC risks the mirroring of discrimination and arbitrary deprivation of nationality, as observed in Assam, to the rest of India, which stands to result in wide-scale statelessness. In Sri Lanka, in the wave of the 2019 Easter Sunday massacre at a church, violent mobs unleashed their rage against Sri Lankan Muslims and refugees from Muslim-majority countries. The attacks followed similar violence in 2018, 2017, and 2014, when armed mobs attacked and torched Muslim-owned homes, businesses, and places of worship. These mobs included hardline Buddhist monks who took part in the attacks and incited violence against Muslims. These are only a few of the many instances that we have documented in the region. Overall, the situation in South Asia is dire, deteriorating, and requires the international community, especially the United States, to pay its utmost attention. Thank you.